The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
Hi, good morning. This is Arlene and you are listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today we have a guest, Dr. Awang Hasmadi. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Awang.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation here.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about a social political analysis on race relations in Malaysia. And you are an anthropologist as well as a sociologist at UKM, Mistik Kebangsaan Malaysia. So
not UKM, International Islamic University.
Sorry, IUM, sorry. My mistake on that.
I formerly was there.
Okay. So, being an anthropologist and a sociologist, you are quite interested in the area of race relation, in particular in this country. So, I'm just curious, like, what made you started to be interested in this particular area?
Just a minor correction. I'm a socio-anthropologist, British trained socio-anthropologist. Well, anthropology in Great Britain is sociological in terms of how they look at things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, have you been studying the race relation in this country for quite some time?
Yeah, I've been following the issue because it's coincidentally I happen to be teaching the course. Yeah, formerly in UKM and then previously in Brunei and now presently in International Islamic University in Gombak. Yeah. I've been following the issues very, very closely.
I see.
And I would say that it's not so good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not so good. And it seems like the race relation in this country has been undergoing a roller coaster ride. And there are times when the race relations are good, but there are times when it is not really good, and it comes from the political climate in this country. What is your analysis on this situation in Malaysia?
Well, the whole picture. Anthropologists look at things quite differently from how other people would look at things. For people who are trained in anthropology or social anthropology, they call we are trained to look at things holistically, meaning we look at things in terms of the relationship between the parts and the whole, and the whole and the parts. When you look at Malaysia right now, the whole picture is not very good. The whole politics is not so good. The economy-wise, we are not doing very well. So all these elements have to foment a kind of relations that is not very conducive to a good living and a good interacting in Malaysia. Somehow Malaysia seems to be like an aeroplane that has no pilot. What's a pilot? Yeah. Nobody seems to care, and nobody seems to give the direction where to go. And if you are trained in Great Britain, that sounds like the whole country is out of order. And British trained, students are very concerned about order or social order, and we don't have that right now.
I see. If you compare to Malaysia, probably 50 years back or 60 years back, has it always been like this? A pilot without, a plane without a pilot?
Where we started, when Malaysia was formed in 1963, we thought that, Sarawakians and Sabahan thought that would be good for us. We have things to share, and we have people whom we live, are like us. We have Malays. When Tengku Abdul Rahman invited Sabah and Sarawak and Singapore to join Malaysia, he emphasized on this commonness between all those countries, in all those countries. but somehow it got lost along the way. There seemed to be an greater and greater emphasis on Malay dominance. And it's getting too much. Yeah, people are not happy about it.
Do you know what is the turning point for this situation where suddenly from being a more ordered socio-political structure to something that you can't really fathom, like what is our basic fundamental ideology is?
I don't know whether we have any any policy in terms of the nation as a whole. In Indonesia, we have anthropologists in this region always refer to some other countries in terms of nation building. In Indonesia, they have what the principle called unity in diversity.
The Pancasila, is it?
Yeah. Initially, we thought of something like that also in Asia, but lately there seems to be no. We don't care about unity. We are not for diversity. It is just Malay monopoly and monotony.
Do you think it started?
The whole idea about Malaysian nationhood is gone. Although it was, some people talk about Vision 2020. The nearer we are towards 2020, I think we have lost all those values that we want to be there.
But do you think it started to lose because of what happened in the 70s, where the national economic policy, or the NEP, started to kick off, and after the racial riot, the government just wanted to to affirm the status of the Malay population, and it has turned out to be like this?
I think for the first few years, the DEB, or the new economic policy, the EB Dua Tasa Economic Baru, the second Malaysia plan was implemented. I think everybody agreed that we need to do something about the state of conditions that the Malays are into. There was poverty, there was rural poverty, there was an identification of jobs with certain communities. And I think Malaysia as a whole gave that opportunity for the leaders to do the correction, to do the correcting and whatnot. But I think later on, the whole idea that was promoted in the DEB was more or less destroyed, because instead of solving the problem of the Malays as a whole, the government started to give too much emphasis on certain group of Malays.
Based on class, right?
Things started. I think I strongly believe the Chinese did give the Malay the chance to improve, themselves. They allowed the DEB being implemented. They never question about ITM going to be promoted to have the Malays restructure the whole society, try to correct the imbalance in terms of economic achievement. But I think as we went further, somehow somebody started to reinterpret the whole policy in his or her way. That's where we had a problem. Yeah.
How does the government policy in the 70s and 80s actually affected Sabah and Sarawak?
Sabah and Sarawak, always feel that we are sidelined, we are marginalized. It's always Peninsular Malaysia first, and the way how the word Bumi-Putra is used in the DEB is very suspicious to Sarawakians and Sabahan, because when you talk about Bumi-Putra here, you always refer to the Malays. In Sarawak and Sabah, we have more than just Malays. The Malays, in fact, in both states are minorities, and there are a greater majority of other groups. So that's where we run into trouble. And Kuala Lumpur never wanted to ask Sarawakians or Sabahans, or the thinkers among them, or the elite among them, intellectuals among them, to come up and tell Kuala Lumpur and ask them whether they are doing things right. And you get problems. You get scholars from UPM, people like Dr. Jawan, Professor Jawan, who complain that the new economic policy never benefited a majority group in Sarawak, who are called the Iban. It just benefited a small group of not even Malays, but a group called the Melanaus. Yeah, Melanau. Yeah, and then what happened to this great ambition to help all the Mimbuputra? The EB is what it was not meant only for the Malays of Sarawak and Sabah, but in fact there was no Malays in Sabah at the time.
I see.
Malays, the whole term Malay came about after the Barisan Nasional tried to wrest Sabah from the other parties. Yeah.
That was in the 80s, right? I mean, the time where
we had relations was not very good. I had the opportunity to observe Malaysia for quite a while. I was, I had my early training. I was one of the pioneers of UKM. I was the fourth batch. I was, I joined UKM in Kuala Lumpur and graduated in UKM Kuala Lumpur, not in Bangi. And I've been observing this relation, the federal-state relations, for many years. And it's not going better. Already in 1983, I tried to tell the whole Malaysian through Utusan Malaysia that you have got all your perceptions, all your summaries, conclusions about Sarawak wrong. You can't even tell what's the difference in Dayak and Malay. And you don't know whether the Iban is the only group that comes under Dayak term.
I see.
And they started complaining about why do the Ibans, welcome their guests like us Malays in such a manner, having an offering called miring with pork or with pigs slaughtered there when pig is haram. And that really shows that they don't have a cultural understanding of the other states in Malaysia. The two states that had helped to form Malaysia. Yeah.
I have to rewind back in the 1970s because we do have the Rukun Negara. But how much of the philosophy and the meaning of Rukun Negara is actually in place from then and until now?
I don't know whether people ever talk about Rukun Negara anymore. I remember one of the, the principles of the Rukun Negara, a very important principle is kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, and it was never mentioned whether that Tuhan is Allah or some other thing.
I think at that time they never thought of it. It would be a controversy.
It's become the whole question of who could mention Allah or who could use the word Allah is brought up, and this, of course, to Sarawakians and Sabah, this is really a real insult. This is like adding salt to a wound, We have the Rukun Negara encourage the use of national language and whatnot, and now you cannot use national language for the kitab, the Injil. What kind of language are we going to use? Melayu as a national language or another kind of language? We need to have two languages, perhaps one for the kitab and one for the whole nation.
And another question that I would like to ask is about Malaysia's past, because a lot of people, they like to reminiscence, we used to be more united in the past. I'm just wondering, because before independence, I don't think we really have a real social order or a social philosophy. But how Malaysia managed to live peacefully with each other pre-independence?
Yeah, when you mention the word independence, I must state quite clearly that Sarawak and Sabah have got different dates of independence. And West Malaysia was independent quite earlier, 6 years or so, 1957. So we have I think at the early stage of the formation of Malaysia, the relation was quite nice. I think it's just like a marriage. I always look at Malaysia for marriage, First time you see the girl, you are so impressed, you like the girl very much. That's why you want to marry the girl. And then you promise till death do us part. But now it's not even, we are not even, we have not even reached the stage of death. We are already apart. So, in the early stage, yes, we had good relations. We were more or less tolerant because, like a marriage, we try to win the other's heart and we try to be nice. But slowly, I think somebody just allowed things to happen without being controlled. And you get over control, in fact. Not that it's not control, it wasn't control, but things got over control. And we slowly, in 1969, we slowly found ourselves, Sabah and Sarawak, suddenly become two smaller states in Malaysia, when in fact we were two big states, Sarawak independent and Sabah independent state, which helped Tengku Abdul Rahman to form Malaysia. At that time, there was, before 1965, there was Singapore there. In fact, if not for Singapore's encouragement and persuasion, Sabah and Sarawak would never be in Malaysia.
I see.
We would be very happy to be alone. We have all the resources.
I see. Interesting past from the perspective of East Malaysia. But at the time also, we can't help but to acknowledge we have the British colonies to rule over us for a couple of years. And probably that also contributes to why the social order was much more peaceful, I guess.
Yeah, everybody had this experience, unfortunate experience. If you are a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, you would realize that almost all those countries, except for Great Britain, was colonized. Yeah, Great Britain was the big brother. But how long do you think we should succumb? We should subscribe to these colonial values? Do you want, after declaring independence, that we have a new nation called Malaysia? We want to practice like we were during the British times, and then this is the problem of the whole thing of called Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur tries to take over what the British used to do before, and we don't like it. We want to be free. We want to be independent. We want to rule our own affairs. We want to run our own affairs. But Kuala Lumpur, try to get things done too much in their own way. This is no way to run a marriage. You can marry couples. What would their wife say if the husband wants to control things too much? And what would the husband say if the wife wants to control things too much? Marriage break apart because all of these accommodations not being practiced, not being allowed, and whatnot. So, yes, indeed, we had a good relation in the past. We used to be very proud that we are one nation. But the moment we were, suddenly demoted to being just two tiny states in the Federation of Malaya, I think Sarawakian and Sabahan started to feel very uneasy about it. This is not Malaysia that they understand. Yeah.
Do you think Malaysia, in terms of race relation, was much better during the Mahathir's period compared to now?
I think slightly better. I think he tried to do things, tried to take into consideration the differences. He started something good at the time, and I used to have this opportunity to go to his house. He invited Sarawak students, from UKM to come over and have dinner at his house, and I did mention to him too. We have things that are not even in Malaysia. Time difference is a difference of 30 minutes, and we don't have newspapers that cover the affairs of all the nation. And we only have papers on Malaya and separate papers on Sabah and Sarawak. And if possible, this could be changed or could be amended so that Malaysian papers or Malaysian practice reflect one nation, not separate nations. And I think it did something good by having one standard time for Malaysia. That was, of course, 30 minutes earlier than you had previously. Malaya or Peninsular Malaysia was 30 minutes late. We were 30 minutes earlier. So there was 30-minute difference. Of course, it was not very comfortable for Malaya. 30 minutes difference is quite large because in terms of the day and whatnot, the sunlight and whatnot. Yeah. But he did well then. But I don't know what happens lately. The person who came up with this Vision 2020 himself is so scared of the vision that he wrote. A liberal society, democratic society, and I don't know what happened.
In fact, the word liberal itself has become like a taboo word in this country.
Yeah, you cannot be liberal anymore. You cannot speak your mind. You cannot even mention your own state problem or your town problem because everything mentioned or stated is regarded as an attack on Barisan National Government. Who's attacking Barisan National? We are too small to attack a huge institution like BN. I'm just a small, tiny ant in a huge mountain of ants. Yeah.
We will return back again for just a short break. I will speak to you in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
Hi, welcome back again to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. With me again is Dr. Awang Hasmadi, a socio-anthropologist. We'll be continue our discussion on the socio-political analysis on race relations in Malaysia. You're still there, right, Dr. Awang?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah. So earlier on, we tackled on the history element of race relation in Malaysia. Now we move to the present day. It seems like it's getting more and more worse, and to the extent that there's no control over what politicians can say or would say, and there's no control over nationalists, ethnocentric groups. They just mushroom all over, in this country, and they just simply say whatever they have in mind. And this is a huge contrast from the earlier Prime Minister or the earlier period where I guess our country were much more authoritarian, I guess, in a sense that I don't think people dare to voice out certain ideas that compared to today where, there's just no limits. I don't think the government really care or really concerned about this. But what do you think on this?
Yeah, I actually, Arlene, I would like to, mention certain things. We must admit the fact that before even Malaysia was formed, there was a real concern about race relations. In fact, the whole idea about the Barisan Nasional, or in those days, Alliance Party, was to solve this issue of consciousness, communal consciousness, and the realization that Chinese, Indians have to work together rather than championing just a single community's cause. And that's the reason why the Alliance Party was formed, before the independence of Malaya. And of course, we had a tragedy in 1969, in 13th of May 1969. But that shouldn't be forever haunting us and, preventing us from understanding and starting to understand Malaysia the way how it should be understood. That there is a need, a genuine need for us to build on the nation. Indonesia was right, they started quite early in and on certain things that they must have a national language, they must have a national ideology, philosophy, that they should be united, although they are much more diverse than Malaysia. They are much more diverse. Talking about diversity, if Indonesia want to talk about diversity, on the Indonesian part of the Borneo Island called Kalimantan, they have a bigger group than us, you know. We share the same kind of groups, ethnic groups. But they are not so concerned about it. They keep on building a nation as one. They speak the same language. We never wanted to do this correct. We get so emotional about things, about language and things. We don't want to sit rationally and accept each other's arguments on why they are not so in favor of Bahasa Melayu or Bahasa Malaysia.
I guess we are still not matured yet in terms of the way.
Somebody say no. Okay, you get another person gets so heated up. Oh, you lawan kita ke? No, I don't think people mean that. You know, again, I want to go back to this marriage analogy. Now, can't you just accept your husband's voice or your wife's voice or your children's voice once for a while? You know, because there's a need for communication, a need to understand that that person there has got an issue to bring up and an issue that to be addressed and to be redressed and whatnot. But no, this is not the way how things are done here in Kuala Lumpur. People are so oversensitive over things, and finally we cannot solve anything. I think if you get people to sit down to listen to each other, and one voice is not, you know, so dominant over the others, I think people will agree that there is a need for a mutual understanding, mutual, helping. You know, look at what happened in this. In Intan by-election, there is an element of control there. You know, DAP tries to control itself from getting, you know, carried emotional about the way how the BN people behave and vice versa. So there is a realization there that we have to do things properly, not to be carried emotionally. Because emotion will never solve problems, you know.
But in the past, how do we deal with this kind of situation where there are, you know, pockets of race friction or conflict?
Yeah, in the past, during the time of Dr. Mahathir's era, we must admit, some of the good things that he did. He called the people involved to sit down and discuss this. But now, as I've told you, the plane, the Boeing. The Malaysian Boeing seems to be running on autopilot.
I see.
I hope it's the Boeing because the Airbus can be more problematic than the Boeing. Yeah. Or the Boeing can be more problematic than the Airbus nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been talking to to aviation experts on which is easier to fly, Airbus or Boeing. Yeah. Both systems have got their goods and the bad points here. But I think now there seems to be no social order. And there doesn't seem to be anyone who wants to impose order.
Yeah.
There is only one order for one group only. That is the opposition. You cannot oppose. You just listen to us. No, this is not the way how we run a family even. In a family, if you do that, you are going to have a broken family very, very soon. Some of your children will never return home. Yeah.
It seems like politicians can just simply say the darnest thing ever and get away with it. How can this happen?
This happened because I think the person in charge of the whole group of them, the whole bunch of them, have deliberately chosen people who are so ignorant. Yeah. So stupid, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, saying things, saying things that never should be said, you know. He cannot even explain why there is a price, a hike in petrol almost every week or every month. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have a very good explanation. They can't explain. Yeah.
And it's not just politicians. I mean, even non-political actors, like, for example, right now, the infamous Ridwanti, regarding on the Thomas Cup. He is trying to sort of like compare between the Malay and the Chinese by comparing Miss Boon and also the Chinese player.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the whole tragedy of what you have in Malaysia, the whole tragedy of Malaysia, because you have people who are quite like Apai Salo. We you know, this character, the Sarawak character Apai Salo, he's like a Pak Pandai, you know. and then there is this guy who is much pandai, you know. It's like pandai means pandai. Called Ridwanti, who should be better than Pak Pandai, but now he is actually like Pak Pandai also. Pandai tapi tak pandai, yeah. Something there.
And so, I think he's a very
differentiate between the two groups now.
Yeah.
Which one is cleverer than the other? It seems that they are both the same. Yeah.
and I think
carried away by emotions.
I think I think Ridwanti, he's a very interesting character to be examined because, I mean, culturally and also in terms of his racial identity, he's not entirely Bumiputra.
Although, he is.
But he has that Bumiputra sort of characteristic or UMNO characteristic, which is I know, as an anthropologist, what do you see of him? Why he is the way he is?
Sociologists or anthropologists would call him as a person who has over-identified himself. He wants to be, acknowledged by the members of the Malay society as a champion of their cause. But he is not the right person to do this. A champion of a particular society, a community, should be a member of that community. It cannot be other people like Ridwanti, because it is an insult to the Malay group that you have a Chinese who trying to tell you things, and who put this pretense, who assume that he is much better than the Malays in understanding things. I think Malay has got their own understanding of things, not the way how Ridwan understands it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we have to admit that the Thomas Cup or any sporting event does unite Malaysia. I remember back a few years ago, when the Harimau Muda started to become, much more, I would say, good in football. People started to feel, people started to, pine for them and started to feel.
Become patriotic again, right?
Yeah, and
I always believe in that games have to foster unity. Games have to foster the bond between different groups, because when we see a national team, we are not talking about one particular, ethnic group or the other. We are talking about the whole nation in that represented by that group, and it helps. But if you have people like Ridwanti, that it doesn't have. It is a disfavor to the whole cause or the whole idea about a game being an element of unity, because he start to interpret the game in his racist way.
Mm-hmm.
Kalau saya tengok Miss Boon lawan Lindai, siapa saya nak sokong? I would rather say nothing about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would not say even raise the issue of Miss Boon lawan Lindai. Yeah. Because it puts himself in a trap.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not just him. Even Malays from right groups, right-wing nationalist group like Perkasa, Pekida and all that, they all have this tendency to focus too much on race and religion as part of their defense mechanism against other races. Yeah,
I think they have overdone it, actually. This is my fear. Because there is a limit to tolerance. And it seems that the way how they talk about these communal issues, the religious issues regarding halal and haram, is Sabahans and Sarawakians look at it as a kind of indirect attack on the religion of Sabah and Sarawak majority people, majority people. It is attack on Christianity. It, just a few days ago, Cadbury issue. I mean, Cadbury issue. Cadbury is just a chocolate, lah. Look at it.
Yeah.
Just a simple chocolate. Why do you want to create war regarding over this whole chocolate thing? Is it worth it if somebody get killed or murdered just because of Cadbury? No, this is not the way how Islam wants things to be done. We have to be quite rational about it. If it's a matter of halal and haram, just deal with it in a proper way. Go to the chemistry department, ask them to declare, or get Jakim to get somebody to make a fatwa and how it can be done and be undone. So,
in fact, there are some people who view that this is not the problem of Cadbury, it's actually a problem of Jakim, because they fail to identify, certain products containing non-halal elements. So I don't understand the whole hoo-ha, especially among Islamists or ethnocentric groups against this Cadbury product. In fact, I read the news today. It was actually reported yesterday. This Islamic group called ACCIN.
This is a new group, the new group, I suppose.
Yeah, a new Islamist group that. Or ethnocentric Islamist group that say that Cadbury must pay for blood cleansing because they have eaten something that is non-halal.
Yeah, it is called blood pollution because it is, it involves the element of an unwanted element coming into your system. Pollution. It's a blood. This is a new terminology that that the group have invented. Thanks to them, we are getting new terminology almost every day. You are right there, Arlene. You are right. This is the first time I hear a stupid idea being brought up. How to purify your blood. It's so. I thank Allah. I'm very shukr to Allah that I had an opportunity to get a surgery done on my spine many years ago. And before I went to I had to stay quite a while in the hospital, HKL, orthopedic ward, more or less about 3+ months. And before I went into the surgery room. I asked my surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, Prof, he's a professor, Prof, you just make sure of one thing. Is the blood safe or not safe?
Oh.
I'm not talking about whether the blood is halal or not halal, because the blood there you cannot tell from where the blood comes from, because the donors are from all across the groups. My only wish from him was to make sure that the blood is not HIV infected.
Yeah, that's a totally different idea of.
I never crossed my mind that the blood should be Malay blood and fully halal. Yeah, that was my genuine concern, because the way how we look at blood, right? It's something that we need for transfusion, and you cannot tell whether something has infected your system, has polluted your system, because pollution can come everywhere without you knowing it.
I mean, the interesting part of this whole episode is, to put credit on Najib, our Prime Minister, he did sort of preach about the need for to be moderates, to call for more moderation in terms of our approach towards race and religion and all that. But it's not enough. It just seems that things are getting worse and worse, and no matter how much the government is trying to say, we want Malaysian to be more going towards the middle path rather than going towards extreme, but the case is not happening. It seems like people are getting more and more extremes, especially those in power and those who are more towards right-wing,
more
ethnocentric groups.
leaning towards the right wing, Yeah, I think Najib has done a little there, but not too much. He seems to let the nation run by itself. As I've told you, he's putting the whole Boeing under autopilot.
Yeah. And he's also been flip-flopping himself in his speeches as well.
Yeah, he is not so forceful about things, This issue of halal haram thing is a very serious issue that should be addressed properly. He has a lot of people around him, scholars around him, and their scholarship, their experience, their expertise should be put to good use, And the religious group should look at the other side of what they are doing right now. Is this what you want in a country? You want war? What does Islam say about war? Say about conflicts? Islam is always against conflicts. Islam insists that Muslims should do things with a great deal of hikmah, with a great deal of care, and understanding. It seems that what is happening these few days does not show, what happened these few days doesn't really show that we are doing things according to the insistence of in Islam that we should do it with hikmah, with understanding. Yeah.
I see.
So that's wrong in Islam. You simply create conflicts. In Islam, conflict is the last resort. Yeah. And you have to ask whether you want to use that as a last resort or the first resort. Yeah. And are you really prepared for that conflict? There are many countries that have gone down the drain, that have become defederated. Yugoslavia, what happened? Still remember what happened in Bosnia?
Oh, yeah.
And Nigeria had gone through that. Sri Lanka had gone through that. So many countries have gone through that. And what do you want us to be called? Malaysia used to be described as the clever one among the non-aligned movement, but now it doesn't seem that we are any cleverer than the smallest nation in Africa. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, has this problem occurred because of the Islamization that is taking place in this country, or actually is the problem of our government, which has been taking no efforts in terms of curbing all this situation, bigotry situation on race and religion?
Yeah, you have mentioned something that is very touchy there, Arlene. The Islamization that is happening. My university is going on this project called Islamization. Yeah.
Oh, really?
With things that are happening now, I do not know whether they are the ones who are the cause of this, or they are the ones who want to benefit from this. Yeah. Definitely, this is not my idea about Islamization. In Islam, there is no force. There is no compulsion in Islam. If you want to be a Muslim, go on. If you don't want to be a Muslim, that's fine. We cannot force people. It is clearly stated in the Quran that there is no compulsion in religion. You cannot tell people that that you cannot do this and you cannot do that, and you want people to respect your religion when you don't respect others' religion. Yeah, it is mutual. It is clearly mentioned in the Quran that the nearest and the most friendly of all religions to Islam is Christianity. And look at what is happening and how we are dealing with the Christians in this country. It's clearly stated there. I don't make that.
Especially
Allah has mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially recently
among the faithful, the people of the faith. To you will be the Christians. Remember when the first Muslim had difficulty? To which country did they go to?
I have no idea.
A Christian country. Abyssinia, Abyssinia, something like that. Yeah.
I see. So, I mean, talking about between Christians and Muslim, I mean, recently also in UiTM where they had a forum to talk about Christianity and how Christianity would actually trying to spread its religion towards Muslim and trying to convert Muslim out of their own religion, and it got so bad that it causes a lot of people, crying out loud that this is not the way it is supposed to be.
Yeah, let me tell you this story about conversion and the Christianization or the Muslimization, Islamization movement. I think this whole process has been going on since history, since the history of Christianity and since the history of Islam. What are we so worried about it? If you are very faithful to your religion, you shouldn't be worried about it. If you are not too sure about religion, but you love your religion, do some more homework baca read so that you cannot be brainwashed by any particular group. There is always this competition between Christianity and Islam to win over converts, to win over members or membership. And what's wrong with it? It's good. Competition is good, right? There are many businessmen out there. So if you have a very poor understanding of religion, then you might fall into the trap, whatever they call it. If you are a very strong person, you know your religion very well or much better than the other, then nothing can ever defeat you. Look at the Japanese during the whole Thomas Cup competition. Were they affected by the Malaysian aura? Were they affected by the Malaysian flag and the history of Malaysian expertise in badminton? No. They have a very simple principle, the Japanese. Whenever I have the experience of working in Japan, almost 3 years teaching in the University of Tsukuba in Japan. And from my experience, from my observation and study of the Japanese, they have a very simple rule of in a competition. That is, I will try my best. Gamate. Gamate, I will try my best. I will not falter. I will not fall. I will not lose, because that will bring shame to the nation. And the Japanese are willing to commit harakiri, for failing the nation. We don't have that attitude. We don't have that value in our country.
I see.
Yeah, so we are not worried about failing.
So
tak apalah, second. We have done better already.
So
but
when you say
they cannot lose. Yeah.
So when you say that, right, what is the way forward? I mean, how can we get out of this circle of constant bickering on race and religion and just focus more on a shared identity?
Yeah, I think there is, in a marriage, like a marriage, there is always a time to start again. Yeah. We start again. Okay? There is still time for Malaysia to achieve what it wants and what already stated in the Vision 2020. Do you want to be liberal? Do you want to be a democratic country? Do you want to be a country that is successful in the sphere of economics as well as social and political affairs? If you want all those already settled, we have to start again. The way how things are happen nowadays is not a good a good sign for Malaysia. Malaysia might just crumble, might just break apart. There is already a different call from Sabah and Sarawak that this is not the Malaysia that we have imagined and our ancestors imagined. We don't want to be part of this. We don't want to be in a country where we can't even practice our own religion. When in fact it's already enshrined in the Malaysia Agreement that the religion of the people of the indigenous people of Sabah and Sarawak should be respected. Yeah, we have to start again if we are concerned about the unity and the posterity of Malaysia.
I see. So That's all for today. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Very interesting analysis on the socio-political situation of race relation in Malaysia.
Yeah, thank you so much also, Arlene, for the invitation. And of course, I highly value this opportunity to speak on behalf of my people in Sarawak and Sabah on their feelings towards Malaysia right now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.